Maybe I'm not making myself clear enough, and I'm going to try not to lose my fucking shit with all of you this morning. Because, you know what? I brought my hookah. I do want to enjoy the day. I still get to enjoy, like all of you tonight, 3 potential second-round draft picks. There's still a lot ahead for this team, and we'll get to the second round later on in the show. But for the last 20 years, the top backs in the league have never won the Super Bowl. Only one had ever made it. That's the data I'm working with. I'm not telling you Jahmyr Gibbs is a bad football player. I'm not suggesting that he won't be a good football player in Detroit. I think he's actually going to have a very good direct impact day one with his football team. I think the idea of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs heading a backfield, healthy hopefully, with that offensive line and that offense, this offense is going to be so fun to watch. Having said that, I don't have to sit up here like a sheep. I don't have to sit up here, guys, and just go with it because I trust Brad Holmes. Of course I trust Brad Holmes. You won't find anybody that's been more positive and supportive of Brad Holmes. I recall last year when they were 1-6, this very same fan base telling me that I was being too hard on Dan Campbell and that Brad Holmes wasn't being held accountable enough for the players he brought in to support his head coach. Then, of course, when they turn things around, oh, it's all good. It's all the bee's knees. I don't forget these things. So, look, I like the players. I do. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't. And clearly the Lions like them much more than people expected in terms of draft position, which, again, to me, doesn't matter when you make the right pick. I sat up here Wednesday.
Right.
I went through the last 10 years of NFL drafts, the top 10 picks, and compared them to picks on from the end of the first to the second and even the third round. There is a significant drop-off. Always. Tariq Woolen, redraft, is a first-round pick. Probably a top 10 pick. Had Seattle taken Tariq Woolen in the first round, everybody would have scratched their heads.
Kirby Joseph.
You could say the same thing with Kirby or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep, Amon-Ra.
Fair?
Yep.
Okay, cool. But they were graded for a reason. And this was the conversation Wednesday. Sometimes NFL GMs and scouts get too caught up in the measurables instead of the football player. And that's why you find all-pro players in the third and fourth round so consistently in the NFL. It's why TJ Watt falls to 22. It's why Aaron Donald falls to 13. So, yeah. I'm not going to sit here and kill the Detroit Lions because they took the 2 players they rated 1 and 2 on their board at the time.
Right.
Absolutely not. Am I going to kill the idea of drafting a running back in the first round? You bet your ass I am. You bet your ass I am. But I can live with the Jack Campbell at 18. I really can, because I thought he'd go mid-20s. So what's a 7-pick drop-off there? To me, nothing. And Dan even alluded to this. Well, I can trade back at 18, probably go to 22, 23 with a team that wants to get up and get their wide receiver or something. I could have done that. But I wanted my guy. And I'm okay with that. You know why, Jeff? Because we live in an interesting world where, accountability really doesn't matter for you guys, but it does matter for me. And when I'm right, you'll hear about it. And when I'm wrong, I will gladly admit it, because this game is all accountability. And if these players don't turn out to be the players you want or expect them to be, you can look at your GM, your front office, and your scouting team and your head coach. Fair?
Fair.
Again, not to say that they won't.
Right.
But I'm not sitting here, and this is why I argued with you so much. And this isn't really a shot at you, but it's more of a, this is why I love our conversations. Because you loved certain players that they passed on. They passed on players I love. I love. No problem.
Right.
I have no problem with that at all. I can hold them accountable. I have no issue with this at all. But when we sit here and have conversations about the draft, or are they reaching for players, I think it's fair for a Detroit Lions fan to wake up this morning and say they reached on a running back. Now, whether Brad Holmes wants to sit up at the podium or stand up at the podium yesterday and say somebody would have traded up and gotten them. I got texts. You know what, guys?
You don't believe it?
It's not that I don't believe it. I just take it with
a grain of salt.
A grain of salt, man, because I've seen this far too often where it really is sarcasm. There are teams that will call GMs after they made a pick good pick, man. We were going to take him 3 picks later. Laughing in the background of that they actually took him. Like, this happens more often than people even think. But, again, who's got a better track record in Detroit, let alone the NFL right now, since he's been in the NFL, than Brad Holmes, right? So I can still support and love the guy and love the work he's done, but question a running back going at 12. And if you don't think so, well, then you're the problem. Then you're the problem, not me. I'm not your problem. You're your own problem if you don't question anything. If you just go with the flow, or if you just inject yourself with a needle without questioning what it could do to you. You're the problem, not me. Not because I'm shocked at what they did on the board. And good. I hope these 2 players turn out to be amazing. I'd be very happy. I would be very, very happy. And I think if there's one believable part about the draft, I do think they're both day 1 starters immediately.
Yes.
I think Jack Campbell is a better linebacker than Anzalone and Malcolm Rodriguez combined. Day 1. He's a guy that can put on that little green sticker and be your quarterback of the defense.
After Anzalone.
I really believe so. So, again, I like Campbell. I always have. And I expected him to go late first round. He went 18. I'm not going to freak out over that.
So I want to just clear some things up because while you were talking, just taking notes here. One of the things you brought up, too, is taking a running back at 12. And the reason why I was so adamant, or open to the idea, I should say, of taking Bijan Robinson is because, and Brad mentioned this at his press conference, typically you guys, or analysts or fans or whoever, put guys in a box. Like Bijan Robinson, running back, okay? I like to call him an offensive weapon. Like even for Jahmyr Gibbs, to say they drafted a running back at 12, I get what you're saying. A lot of GMs would disagree with that, drafting a running back that high. I mean, a lot of GMs wait till later in the drafts and they continue to find guys that can contribute. Jahmyr Gibbs is not just a running back. He's an offensive weapon. Like what he did production-wise, not only in the run game, but in the pass game, that's what Brad looked at. And that's why he was so high on Brad's draft board. And at the end of the day, the only thing that matters, not these mocks, not the talking heads on television telling you, why Jahmyr Gibbs is a second-round pick. It's Brad Holmes' draft board. And the reason for that is Will Levis last night, according to odds, 0.1% chance of going to the second round. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He's in the second round. So, looking at players and putting them, Jahmyr's a second-round pick, Jack Campbell, second-round pick. We got to wait till these guys can play. I mean, right now, Brad Holmes is high on both of these players.
Would you redraft Fred Warner in the first round because he was a third-round pick?
Of course, yes.
And obviously, I'm not trying to bring the hindsight stuff up here, but this happens often. Again, I can understand the Campbell pick. You're gonna.
And I want to say this too, Brad. Another reason why you went Jahmyr and Jack Campbell, and I'm trying to understand Brad's philosophy in this. Not only were they, his highest-rated players at the time, he wants guys that can come in right away and contribute. Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell can do that. I mean, DeAndre Swift's future is unclear. 1 year left. This pretty much boots him out the door, in my opinion. You get Jahmyr Gibbs, what he can provide. You're not going to have J-Mo the first 6 weeks. You can utilize Jahmyr Gibbs in the passing game. And then you get Jack Campbell, who can come in right away and play. So 2 guys that can contribute to a team that's poised to win the NFC North. I'm trying to comprehend it, and it makes more sense.
I was so confident going into last night, I tweeted this out. Whatever happens, no matter how eventful, because by the draft time, by the way, before we started, and I didn't have a chance to go on the mic yesterday. I was just too busy getting everything ready. Jeff, did I not tell you? Did I not tell every fan that attended in person? Did I not tweet out? They're going to trade back. They were going to trade back, and I expected chaos, and it's exactly what we got. And on top of it, did I want them to take a defensive tackle? I did.
Of course, yeah. Jalen Carter.
Am I going to cry over it because they went 1 pick later? No. Do I still think they can get a defensive tackle in this draft? I do.
Mm-hmm.
They have picked 34, 48, and 55. A lot of moves can still be made. Look. Brad Holmes clearly valued these 2 players as, quote, his best players on the board. Okay? For a GM that I've given so much love and admiration and praise for.
Right.
Okay? I'm allowed to question the running back pick at 12. I may be in the minority here, I don't mind Jack Campbell at 18. I know Braylon walked off the set. I know there's a lot of people on Twitter who are upset.
Yeah,
call him as stiff as a rock. Look, the guy was more athletic than we all imagined, okay? When he tested out at the Combine, that next day, what did I tell you? He's going to be a first-round pick. Probably late first round, 24 to 31.
Yeah, Brad said he was the highest player on the draft board. He said by far.
By a margin by the time they got to 18.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay
at
with
18,
the Campbell pick.
Yes.
I can live with that one. Mm-hmm. You're just going to have a tough time convincing me that I'm paying David Montgomery now. I got Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. And again, I think the offense is going to be fucking phenomenal.
So let me just, before we go to break, I want to lay this out. So the trade to go back, I know they gave up a third-round pick and they got, 34 and a fifth-round pick.
34 is basically a first-round pick, Jeff.
And I want to say that too because people are saying, well, traded back and got Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, if you think about it, if instead of taking Bijan at 6, Brad Holmes trades back now to 12, which cuts the salary annually for that pick by about $1.5 million. So now you're paying Jahmyr Gibbs less than what you would have paid Bijan, and you get 34. And by the way, that 34 pick, with the Dolphins forfeiting, that's essentially basically a first-round pick. So Brad's going to have a chance after the Steelers to take whoever falls out of that first round. So instead of looking at Jahmyr Gibbs and saying, man, you drafted him at 12, you got to take 34 and 12 and see who they got together. Because if they land a really good player, by the way, tons of them left at 34, package him with Jahmyr Gibbs. That's the value instead of taking Bijan. Again, I was high on Bijan. You guys know how much I talked about him. But at the end of the day, Brad, he was cooking. We did say let Brad cook.
No. I'm not going to get into those taglines. I know we got to go to break. Callers are on the line. We'll get to callers in a minute. It's not about letting Brad cook and all the fun stuff that fans like to do. It's not about that.
Because the
GM has earned the right to make decisions. And at the end of the day, whether they work or not, he will be held accountable. I don't lose my job if C.J. Stroud, I'm working in the Houston market. I don't lose my job if C.J. Stroud doesn't become a franchise quarterback and he ends up being Zach Wilson, and then Will Anderson never sees a snap and has similar career problems like Chase Young. I don't. Mm-hmm. The GM and the coach do. That's not my job. So who am I to sit up here and totally throw out of the window what they did in the first round? I don't like running backs in the first round. I absolutely hate it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to back down off of it. That doesn't mean I hate the player.